There was a scene that was in the script early with Jimmy describing that how many different places he had lived. I was always quite fond of the scene for a couple of reasons. One, I think it helped us understand how many times Jimmy and his family had moved. But two, visually, I felt like that it was going to be a great segue from one scene to the next as the spinning inner tubes would turn into a spinning tire of the Morris family station wagon on the move yet again to West Texas. The scene was left out for a couple of reasons. One, time, obviously. We wanted to get to the main part of the story with Dennis as Jimmy Morris. And two, when we showed the movie to audiences, they completely got the idea that the Morris family moved quite a lot and that Jimmy wasn't all that happy about it. So therefore we didn't need to have the scene in, which is one of those things that's always tough for a first-time director because you think visually you've accomplished something and now it's not in the film. That said, you get to watch it in the DVD.
San Diego, Presidio, San Francisco, Key West.
I was in Key West 3 times.
Key West, Key West, Key West. Waukegan, Groton, Virginia Beach, Roanoke.
Mayport.
And now Texas.
Mom said if you're good enough, doesn't matter where you live, right?
Moms don't know nothing about baseball.
What are those things?
What?
The things moving up and down.
Oil rigs. When those things are moving up and down, means times are good. Looks like times are good.
Mike Rich wrote a scene early in the movie, which is a softball game that takes place at night in Big Lake, Texas. And it's kind of a beer baseball league that they have. And Jimmy's on the mound and he's pitching and he gets taken deep. I always liked this scene because I felt like that it was great that the first time you saw a baseball game in this movie, it was really down and dirty small town with Jimmy giving up a home run. And the last time you would see a baseball game would be at the ballpark in Arlington with Jimmy striking out Royce Clayton. I thought there was a nice yin-yang thing to the baseball setup for this. It was excluded for a couple of reasons. One, time, as you're going to hear many times, is your enemy when you're trying to make a 2-hour movie. And the other thing was that there were some people that thought that actually Jimmy seemed like he had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder in this, and that's not the real character, and we didn't want to portray him thusly, so it ended up going by the wayside.
Come on, Dad, strike him out.
Hey, Big League, you gonna walk him in front of your own son? You want your pitch? He's gonna ball forward anyway.
There's a scene in the first half of the script which is Jimmy Morris taking Whack and giving him a ride home after practice. And it's one that I always liked on the page, and I really liked execution-wise when we shot it and cut it, and I thought it worked. And it was a really difficult scene to leave out because I felt like it gave, I don't know, some insight into how Jimmy felt about his players. That said, when we showed the movie to an audience without it, it was pretty clear that the audience understood that Jimmy was not only a good coach, but cared deeply about these players, and it became unnecessary. And given the time limitations we were up against, decided to leave it out. So I hope you enjoy it.
That fastball. That's what I'm gonna have to get used to, huh?
You will. Takes time.
Thanks for the ride. Hola, hermanita. Hey. What you doing out here?
Is that the daddy?
Yeah. Hey, Whack. You go over there. I'll be right over there.
Might need that.
I'm gonna hit one of those pitches, man.
You keep playing this game.
There's a point halfway through the movie where the Owls have won the district championship, and it's Dennis's turn to pay off his end of the bet, which is to go try out for the minor leagues. There's a scene that was in the script that we actually shot that takes place right after the players have said, "It's your turn, coach." And it's out on the empty baseball field with Jimmy and his son, Hunter. And it was always one that was just beautiful when we shot it. We caught those great 20 minutes right before the sun dips, and you can see that it's pretty spectacular looking, and you always want to leave those in. At the same time, it was really a scene that became unnecessary in terms of the flow of the movie. And so it was left out, although it's a scene I enjoy very much. And I know Angus will appreciate it being back in, so have a look.
It's your turn, Coach.
It's your turn, Coach. It's your turn, Coach. Your turn, Coach.
You knew they were gonna win today, didn't you?
Sometimes when you want something bad enough, it just works out that way.
Mom,
It's been a good field.
can we get a Slurpee?
Maybe later.
But you said if you wanted something bad enough.
I wasn't talking about Slurpees.
After Jimmy goes and tries out and finds out, much to his surprise, that he's throwing the ball 98 miles an hour, there's a scene in the movie that's actually not in the movie, but is in the script, where Jimmy goes and talks to several of his Owl players at the burger joint. The main information that's passed along there is the fact that when you play minor league baseball, when you sign a contract, it's for less than you would make teaching biology at Big Lake High School, which is probably information that most audience members wouldn't necessarily know. You think going to play pro baseball is big time and you're making a lot of money. In truth, when you're playing A ball, you can make as little as $600 a month, which is $150 a week, and this is before taxes. It's not a lot of money. And it really underlined the struggle that Jimmy and Laurie had to go through to determine whether or not they would take this chance on his dream. The scene ended up being left out for a couple of reasons, actually just for one. One is time. And we felt like that we could cover the $600 a month in another scene, and we ended up doing a loop in another scene that passed that information along. That said, it's always a bit of a loss when you've got something that, from a production design standpoint, I always appreciated Barry Robison's work on this set. It was actually his favorite set, which probably, when he told me that, ensured the fact that it wouldn't make it into the movie, so.
Whoa. You said you'd think about it? Are you crazy, man? I mean, think is what women do when someone wants to marry. There's no thinking involved when someone wants you to play baseball.
Just because they sign a contract doesn't mean they're going to put me in the major leagues.
So what's wrong with a minor league contract?
You ever seen a minor league contract? There's no guarantee of anything. They pay you next to nothing.
So what? You're a teacher. It's what you get paid anyway.
Teachers get paid a lot more than minor league pitchers. A lot more. You got a few more people who think about it than just me.
Man, I ain't ever getting married.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a scene in the script that we actually shot, which took place after Jimmy's first pitching effort in the minor leagues, which was a disaster. And the scene's a really well-written scene by Mike Rich. And in it, his Double-A manager comes and sits down with Jimmy on the bus and tells him a story about he and his father chopping wood, essentially giving him fatherly advice to just relax and to play more, to throw the ball more smoothly and gracefully. It seemed when we shot the scene, we cut it, it was beautiful. Brandon Smith, the actor playing the Double-A manager, was terrific. It just seemed a little late in the game for a protagonist to be essentially getting crucial information from a character that we had just met. And we thought to be truer to Jimmy Morris, he should, you know, draw strength from within and solve his own problems as opposed to having someone else solve them for him. Eric Beeson, the editor, and I sat down, cut the scene out, and essentially came up with a montage that would be Jimmy at the window thinking and trying to stir some emotion within himself and make himself pitch better. I like the fact that this is what we ended up with. Apologies to Brandon Smith on cutting his scene out. He's terrific in it, and you'll get a chance to see it now.
Trouble sleeping?
A little bit.
Me too. Got a couple of players snoring behind me, and the third base coach louder than both of them sitting right next to me. That was quite a fastball you were tossing.
You'll get better.
Yeah. You know, when I was a boy, my father used to take me out to the woods so we could cut firewood for the winter. Bear with me now. Anyway, the two of us would be out there, and I would so want to cut more wood than he could. I'd be swinging away. There he'd be, just a few feet away from me with this smooth and graceful swing. Didn't even look like he was working. Every time he'd end up cutting more wood than me. Every time I'd wind up standing there out of breath, wondering how he did it. You know what he'd tell me? You're trying too hard.
Your father ever coached baseball?
No, he's too smart for that. He sure could cut some wood, though. So what are you doing on a bus with an old baseball coach and a bunch of kids?
When I was 18 years old, and bear with me on this, I got a phone call that I was going to be a professional baseball player. And I figured I'd be in the big leagues in a few weeks, and until they started telling me I wasn't throwing hard enough. So I did what any kid would have done.
You threw harder.
A few operations later, I was a high school science teacher. Didn't have anybody tell me I was trying too hard.
Well, I better get back up to the front of the bus and see if things are quieting down any. Remember now, smooth and graceful.
Smooth and graceful. Yes, sir.
All right. Good night.
There was a particular scene that we shot between Jimmy Morris and the player Brooks, played by Russell Richardson, outside the motel room where the minor league players were living in the movie. And as we were shooting it, John Schwartzman, our very talented DP, came up to me and said, you know, this is the reason I'm a cinematographer, shots like this. This may be my favorite shot in any movie I've ever done, which probably jinxed it because it's not in the movie. That said, it's a wonderful scene between Dennis and Russell, and it provided one other little bit of insight that we struggled with till the very end about whether to include the scene or not. And that was, we had no real explanation of why Jimmy was throwing the ball 10 miles an hour faster. And in this scene, Russell actually asked that question, and an answer is given, which is essentially to say that we, the filmmakers, don't have any more knowledge than you do, but at least we acknowledged it. When we tested the movie, we found out that everybody came up with their own explanation for exactly why Jimmy was throwing the ball harder. Either it was because he'd been throwing batting practice to his kids, or the last surgery he took, or it was just the time that had passed and he was in good shape. People didn't think of it as a liability. They filled in their own answers, so it therefore made the scene unnecessary. And I guess that's the great thing about DVDs. You can put scenes like this in and you get a chance to look at them outside the movie.
You got it, Sanchez?
I got it.
You okay?
Mm-hmm. All right, Sanchez. Man, I wish I was swinging against him tomorrow.
Unfortunately, the team we're playing gets to. How long you been here, Brooks?
Durham? All year long, man.
Well, you won't end it here.
Yeah, and how do you know that?
Ah, come on. Everybody knows the big team's only going to call one guy up, and it's going to be you. Don't tell me you hadn't thought about it.
Oh, man, the only thing I can think about is getting my hits. You know? That's all I can do.
Who taught you that?
Patient man.
Did your dad play?
Some. Wasn't good enough, but, man, he loved it. And every night before a game, he'd say to me, son, you know what you get to do tomorrow? You get to play baseball.
Your dad's still around?
He put a few thousand miles on the car just to watch me play this year.
Night, Brooks.
Hey, Rip.
Yeah.
How do you figure all this? I mean, you thawing faster than you ever did.
You a religious man?
Yeah, I guess.
It's the only thing I can come up with.
Got number 5, Pendergrass up the bat.
On a cool spring night in West Texas, two high school teams play baseball, like they do in other small towns across America. But the players in this game know they are competing on a field where something very special happened in 1999. The Reagan County High School Owls and the townspeople of Big Lake, Texas, remember not only a championship season for their team, but the beginnings of a dream for Coach Jim Morris, whose unlikely journey from high school baseball coach to major league pitcher has inspired everyone who's ever had a dream.
You couldn't tell this story as a movie unless it were true, because it would be too good to be true.
That's what interests me most. What is a story like? Does it grab me? And this one really did grab me.
It's been an inspiration for many, many people.
When I was a kid, I thought, I just want to be in the big leagues. Well, I was. It just took me a long time to get there.
To say that Jim moved often was really an understatement. This was a kid who moved 14 times before he was 12 years old. But West Texas was move number 14, and that really was the final stop. That became home for him. So it was home for Jim, and it was home for the start of my story as well.
Big Lake, Texas is in West Texas, and this is the real Texas.
It's a place that most people, unless they grew up there or they're in oil or gas, drive through getting somewhere else.
A lot of people don't realize how big West Texas really is. It's not distinct because of its scenery. What makes West Texas good is the people that live here.
Growing up in Big Lake, there's really not a whole lot to do. Sports are really big. Everybody likes to play football, baseball, basketball.
And the kids out there, they're tougher kids. That's the way Jim Morris was.
In the movie, it's called the Big Lake Owls. We actually refer to it as Reagan County High School. Along comes Jimmy Morris. former baseball player, a very nice, intelligent man.
I love being in the classroom. I like working with kids. And the kids were attentive, and it was a fun time, and I like teaching.
He helped in football, and he was the head coach in baseball, and he got back to where he was throwing batting practice every day. And then from one year to the next, his arm, it kept getting stronger.
Well, this is Reagan County's baseball field, home of the Fighting Owls. As a writer, when you come out to a place like Big Lake, you're kind of coming in search of a story. This is where it all happened. This is where Jimmy Morris coached the Owls, all 10 of them. This is actually a little bit greener than it was when I first came out here.
The baseball field was in very bad condition. It was really grown up with weeds.
We always wish that they would fix our field up like the football field.
It's one of the things we try to point out in the movie is how baseball really does take a back seat to football, even around here. I think they could fit the whole town, not just the student body, but I think they could fit the whole town in the seating section there.
The baseball team, along with Jimmy and several community volunteers, went in there and they worked till late at night to get the baseball field in shape.
We were the baseball players / maintenance men. We pretty much turned that place around.
I wanted the kids to take care of their ballpark like they would take care of anything else in their life and treat it as something special, because baseball is very special to me. I had a ball in my hand from the time I could crawl. I saw a baseball game on TV, and I sat there just amazed watching these guys throw the ball and catch the ball and hit the ball.
And he wanted to know what that was. And so I explained to him that they were playing baseball, and he wanted to do that. Jimmy's an all-around athlete. He was very good at football also.
Going to church and playing football. Those are the two most important things in West Texas. And, you know, I like football. It was a sport. It just wasn't my favorite sport. Baseball's always been my first love.
Right there! Come on! Throw him! Got him! Got him!
In a small school, the players all have to play all sports. So a lot of the players were still playing basketball. And then you turn right around and start into the next sport, which was baseball.
My team was real sluggish. They just lost a basketball playoff game in which they should not have lost. I couldn't get them out of the doldrums.
I remember one of the first games that we played, the West Texas wind got up and it blew us off the field as well as the other team blowing us off the field.
And the Owls are down 10.
Not your day, Rudy.
The deal started, the bet.
Coach Morris wanted a little more serious approach to the game. It was getting down too close to being playoff time.
And so we got in a team meeting down the line after practice one day, and I said, you guys have to have hopes and dreams and aspirations. I said, if you don't have those, you're not going to go anywhere. And if you don't set goals for yourself, how are you ever going to achieve anything?
I'm talking about having dreams. And all that starts right here. Okay? Right here. You don't have dreams, you don't have anything.
And Joel looked at me, and I think I'm doing a great job, and he goes, well, what about you? And I said, what about me?
You're the one who should be wanting something more. And the sad part is, I mean, we see it and you don't.
He goes, well, we can tell by the way you throw batting practice to us and the way you throw to Joe David and I that you really want to play baseball.
We just told him, hey man, you pitch too fast for us. You should go play baseball and get paid for it.
And then we talked a little bit, went back and forth, badgering each other, and he finally said, look.
What if we win district? Huh? What if we win district and go to state playoffs, then?
And I sat there for a second. I said, all right, you guys win a district championship, and I will hunt a team down to go try out for. I said, I'm not going to do any good. I said, but I will try because that's what I'm trying to teach you guys.
And that did seem to turn the Owls around. After that, they started winning.
I'll tell you, the one question I had when I got out here to Big Lake was, how does a team that won one game one year, one game the next year, win a dozen games the year that Jimmy Morris was coaching them? And I'll tell you, the answer to that question is, it was because Jimmy Morris was not only coaching them, Jimmy Morris was pitching to them. He had no idea he was throwing as hard as he was, and he was throwing 95, 96 mile an hour fastballs. So these kids, in essence, were taking batting practice against major league pitching. Well, so by the time they'd play these high school games against these high school pitchers, those baseballs looked like beach balls coming up there.
That year we had the highest batting average overall. We could hit anything, any pitcher on any team could throw against us.
They won some games where they scored 30 runs, and we didn't actually put that in the film because we felt that nobody believed it.
All right, it didn't take long for the Owls to take care of business.
We win the district championship on a come-from-behind win. You know, they're celebrating like they won the World Series. They were ecstatic. And they get on the bus one at a time. It's your turn, coach. You got to do it now. Boom, it hit me. I went, oh no, I've got to go throw for somebody.
The first tryout camp was in Brownwood, Texas. He showed up out there, and he's got 3 of his kids. He's pushing one in the stroller. And
Hey, marker.
Ready, action!
Hey, Jimmy, come on, you're up.
Just a second.
I'm not doing it.
All right, look. You just stay right here, and you look after your sister, all right?
Well, let's go.
the first pitch he threw was 94. And then the next pitch he threw was 96.
He's sitting there and he's shaking his gun. I went, man, I can't even register on the gun.
And then he threw 12 98s in a row.
He's showing everybody around behind the backstop, and I'm like, what is the deal?
I asked the coach next to me, because he's got a ray gun too, and I said, we got electrical interference here. I said, there's something wrong. And he said, no. He said, I'm getting the same thing.
That's when I started going,
They're gonna think you're crazy or I'm crazy when I call the office.
You don't turn down lefties that throw 98, and I went, what?
I talked to a scout director, and he said, go back down to Brownwood and throw him one more time. Unbelievable. We had a rain, it never stopped. And he's still 93, 96. And I called the scout director. I said, what do you want to do with him? He said, I don't care if he's 50, if he can throw like that. He said, I want him.
This was a done deal before he ever told me. He was afraid to call me. He was afraid I'd tell him, have you lost your mind?
My farm director called me and said in about a week they were going to be bringing in this 36-year-old left-hander that hadn't played pro ball in over 10 years. And that first day that we ran a little bit, he was pretty much gassed. Our pitching coordinator said, do you ever throw a slider? And the first slider that he threw about broke my thumb. It was pretty good.
This wasn't Jim's first chance at the minor leagues. He was actually drafted out of high school by the New York Yankees. He didn't sign with them, but it was when he was signed by the Beloit Brewers that, and it's a funny story because he actually met someone who would play a major role in his life. One of the producers, he actually roomed with one of the producers of the film, The Rookie.
And when we came upon this story from a magazine article, it was, you know, my eyes popped out of my head. And he said, look at this article. I played baseball with this guy, Jim Morris. Isn't this weird? I played with him for 2 years, and then we went to different teams, but we hung around together and actually roomed together in one spring training. He was up and down as far as how he pitched. He threw pretty hard, but he was wild.
I was always a little wild, so I thought, that's not any different than normal. I mean, they drafted me, surely they want me.
He never put together many good games in a row, and he just always seemed like he was dealing with different obstacles.
I threw a breaking ball, and it hit the plate, and it bounced up and hit the catcher in the ear and took off part of his ear. He had to have it sewn back on.
It's a guy that had no success in the minor leagues and never got above A-ball and 4 arm operations where he lost half the muscle in his shoulder.
He had gotten hurt so many times, and I think with all the surgeries and everything, he was just in pain, and he just decided he couldn't go on.
And so I talked to my doctor, and I said, look, I got to go. He goes, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to go back to school and get a real job.
Well, he was released, and then he went back to West Texas, went back to college to pursue a teaching career, and found out that he was a pretty good punter while he was there. He punted for the local college team in San Angelo, punted good enough that he was able to get All-American honors, and this is a guy who's in his mid-20s.
And I remember the first game, you know, I'm here playing with 18, 19-year-old kids, and I'm like, oh, man, I'm 27. So the first kickoff, and I was hoping I just made contact, but I kicked it and hit the goal post and bounced back out to the 30-yard line. First year, I made All-Conference, and the second year, I made All-American and led the country.
No, I was glad he was going to college. I thought he needed his degree.
James Samuel Morris, Jr.
Baseball was always in his heart, and I knew that deep down he was not done with baseball.
You know, I talked to scouts later on that saw him in AA and AAA, and they said they'd never seen a guy that age with that kind of arm. You know, there's no reason, it's just, you know, I think it's destiny.
He said, tell me I'm crazy for trying this. And I said, no, you don't see this come along very often, so you might as well take it and run with it.
playing at Durham. Jim was much closer to the major leagues than he had ever been as a young man. But he was also being pretty realistic about the situation. He knew he had a family back home. He knew he had a lot of bills to pay. So he was really giving some serious consideration to heading back home at that point. What he didn't know is he was actually just a few days away from the major leagues.
Jimmy, I just got off the phone with the big club.
I thought, well, it's been a fun summer. This is it, I'm done.
They're calling me up?
You're going to the big leagues tomorrow. And I just remember slumping down in the chair and going, I made it.
Well, I was kind of fortunate that I was able to be on that trip with him when he went to Arlington. I mean, this was a kid in a candy store.
First major league game, I just could remember thinking, I haven't had any sleep in 2 days, but I don't feel tired right now. I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna enjoy this. They're gonna let me rest because I've thrown 2 days in a row before this. And so I was just kind of taking everything in. And then the phone rang.
Morris, start warming up.
After I warmed up on this mound right here, I can't remember if it was our bullpen catcher not catching me, and I was throwing, and all of a sudden they said, you're in. And the pitching coach took the ball away from me. And that's when I think I started to panic a little bit. I was like, and I just started walking down the stairs for me, and when I stepped through this gate, and I got ready to jog, I could just feel my heart just pounding, and I couldn't believe it. And all I could see were people and hear noise and colors. I'd never seen so many colors in my life. I don't know why I couldn't process it. And I thought, this is what you've wanted since you were 5 years old, and here we go. And I started jogging into the mound. And the farther I jogged, it was weird because the noise started to go down, and I tried to find my family up in the stands and see where they were, but I never could find them because there were so many people here. And after that, it was get ready for Royce Clayton, because that's who you're going to face. I guess one of the things I thought about as I jogged in to the mound was get there as quick as you can before you trip and fall over something. I jogged out there, but it felt like I was sprinting because my heart was beating so fast. And I'm seeing all these new faces. I mean, I've met everybody, but nobody knows if I can pitch, why I'm here. So these guys are looking at me, and I'm kind of looking at them and trying to get to the mound as quick as I can so I can just get down to business and see if I can get rid of the jitterbugs. As I got to the mound, Larry Rothschild, our manager, was here, and John Flaherty, our catcher, was here. And we came up and we met right on this side of the mound, and I don't know what Larry told me. Apparently I was laughing because a lot of people saw it, but I don't remember what he said. And then Flash looked at me and he goes, well, what do you throw? Fastball, slider. He goes, okay, how about 1-3, let's go. And I started digging in and making my place on the mound. I remember going, okay, let's just throw the ball to the catcher. Let's not throw it in the backstop. The one thing that came to my mind was, wow, it's quiet. I can't believe I could not hear anything. And the only thing I could really see was John. Like, he and I were the only ones that existed on the planet. And I was just like, okay, I think I can do this. And he gave me a sign, and his fastball. He's been in the big leagues, and I thought, hey, he knows what he's doing, so I'm not going to argue with him. Fastball's great. So I come set, I check Goodwin at first. I look back, throw my first pitch. Royce swings at strike one, missed it. Thought, hey, this isn't so bad after all. John threw the ball back, get back on the mound. I look over at Goodwin, look back, get my sign, fastball again. Now, he didn't hit that one. Maybe I can get this one by him too. Throw another fastball. Boom, strike two. Like, yes, 0-2, guy on first, 2 outs. I think I can get out of this. So he throws the ball back, and I step on the mound again because I don't waste time. I just like to get the ball and pitch. He gives me my sign, fastball again. And I guess he likes my fastball. So I'm looking over at Goodwin at first. I give him a couple of checks this time because he's kind of staggering. And I throw another fastball. Well, this one Royce kind of got a piece of, and it fouled back up in the stands behind their dugout. I thought, okay, still 0-2. Let's see what we can do. So this time I check Goodwin at first. I look back in. Here's John. Fastball, up and in. I can do that. I threw it, and it was about chest high, and Royce chased it. And check swung and missed, strike three. Something I wanted since I was 5 years old. And here's my first big league hitter, and I struck him out in front of my hometown, basically. I mean, I'm from Texas, and one of the most beautiful ballparks in America, in front of my family and everybody else. It was just an amazing, amazing moment. By the time I got to the dugout, there were people on the steps waiting to hug me. Flash comes over, he goes, you may want to keep this. And he hands me the ball. Yes, my first game ball in a big league game. So I sit on the end of the bench, and I thought, when is the last time I took a breath? Because I swear I don't think I took a breath from the time I left the bullpen until I struck him out and got over there.
was very proud. And it was kind of like my heart just like, I can't believe, you know, he actually finally made it after all these years.
He pitched 2 more weeks after the game in Arlington and then pitched the next season for Tampa Bay. Did pretty well, but the arm started bothering him once again. Tried one more time with the LA Dodgers, but at that point he pretty much knew that it was time to call it quits and go back home.
Any baseball guy knows the reality. You can't pick it up after years and years away from the game and expect to throw harder and better. It just doesn't make sense.
One of the things Jim had always told me was, I'm not going to hang on. When it's time for me to go, I'm going to go out gracefully. And that's what he opted to do. And we were starting to receive phone calls from people that were interested in purchasing the life story rights.
We've got a book out, The Oldest Rookie, Big Dreams from a Small Town Guy. It is honest, it was very hard to write.
It's been a rough journey, but not all journeys are easy. Life is not easy.
And I think he understands that thematically, even in places where, you know, it's not exactly what happened, it's pretty much what happened. And thematically, it's exactly what happened.
We realized pretty soon that there's something unfulfilled in his life and that there was a dream that he was never able to attain. And it's always been just beyond his grasp. And the idea that for the first time at age 35, this guy can actually chase his dream one more time is a classic American story.
When we make movies about people following their dreams, they're usually young people. And I was just really moved by the story of, you know, a guy kind of approaching middle age who, having done the sensible thing, done the rational thing, has this kind of chance to, even for a year of his life, occupy that place that he dreamed of. And I found that really inspirational.
I find Jim Morris to be a very humble person, and he has a lot of gratitude for what's happened to him.
I fulfilled a dream. I always wanted to get there and see what it was like, and I got to do that, and I thank God for it. And I thank my kids from Reagan County High School, because without them, I never would have tried it again.
He always made me look for the best in everything. He always brought out my best and made me try as hard as I could at everything.
All my years, I'd never seen anything like it. It just, it's a phenomenon to me, you know. And for a good person, too.
I think the moral of Jim's story is to never give up on your dreams.
Well, for Jim Morris, this was never about a major league career. For Jimmy, it was about getting the answer to that question, am I really good enough to be here? And on one September night in Arlington, Texas, he got that answer.
One, two, three. All right. Let's go. Let's go field. Let's go now. Here we go.